What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Draft Geeks podcast. It's been a while, but we got our top 30 big board as of right now. Obviously, this is going to evolve into more of a top 50, top 60 as the process continues. But right now, we're going to bring you our top 30 players. We're going to talk about some guys that we have questions about with each other, someone that's higher on one guy than maybe I am, or maybe someone that is a little bit lower on my list compared to Max's. However it may be, hopefully you guys are ready because the Draft Geeks podcast starts right now.
Welcome into another episode, everybody, of the Draft Geeks podcast. I'm Max Showstack over at the Draft Geek, alongside Jace Campbell over at Pat's Drive. We've got a top 30 big board for you guys today. We're going to run through our top 30 lists, stop each other, as Jace kind of said, when we're like, hey, you're way too high or low on this guy. But it's also just going to be a great opportunity for us about a month out of the draft to really put a bow on informing each other and talking through how we see the top of this class. Because, some of these players we've watched on repeat, a bunch of games. You watch them when you study them. You watch them when you're studying other players. And you're like, all right, I'm sick of this. You kind of move forward towards the back half of the class. But this is our version of really putting a bow on the top of this draft class, figuring out who we like, who we don't like within each other's top 30s, having some of those conversations. And, the most important part, picking on each other when somebody's got somebody at 32 and the other's got somebody in the top 30, and we're accusing each other of being that prospect's biggest hater or biggest glazer, if you will. Jace, how are you doing? I'm excited to work through these top 30s.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And it's going to be a little interesting because we haven't gotten to any of our defensive position rankings. So we haven't been able to talk about, hey, at the edge position, this is my number one guy. And same thing with linebackers, which we'll get into probably at least a couple of those before the draft. But we still have mock drafts. We still have big board stuff to do. So might not get to all of them. So it'll be interesting because we've talked through all the offensive positions, but it'll be good to see where some of these guys fall for the defensive side of the ball.
I'm ready for it. If your ears are going to perk up when we start talking about some of these defensive players, and maybe we'll shout out as we get through the defensive players, or maybe all of these players, where they rank for us within that position group, just to give you guys a better idea of how we're evaluating those players in their positional vacuums. But if you're on YouTube, which you should be subscribed if you're over there. If you're not, I'm going to assume that you're commuting to work and there's no other excuse. And you should be following on Spotify over there. But the graphic is up on the screen. For audio, we will do our best to make sure we're reading the name, the school, and the position. And without further ado, Jace, you want me to just run through 30 to 21? You do the same, and then we'll stop each other after that, open the floor for some banter?
Yeah, let's do it.
So at 30, I've got Colton Hood, the cornerback out of Tennessee. That's going to be the number 3 corner you see on my list. Keldrick Falk, the edge rusher from Auburn. I think that's edge 5 for me. Dylan Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon, my 4th safety. Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon, my number 1 tight end. Caden Proctor, I've got him listed as offensive line from Alabama. We'll get into that in a little bit. Peter Woods, my number 2 interior defensive lineman from Clemson, right behind Caden McDonald, my number 1 interior defensive lineman from Ohio State. Denzel Boston, my wide receiver 5 out of Washington. TJ Parker, my edge 4 out of Clemson. And Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety out of Toledo, my 3rd safety.
At 30 for me, Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle from Alabama. Denzel Boston, the wide receiver at Washington at 29. Zion Young, the edge rusher out of Missouri at 28. Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M at 27. Blake Miller, the offensive tackle out of Clemson at 26. Jermod McCoy, the cornerback out of Tennessee at 25. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety out of Toledo at 24. Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver out of USC at 22. Caleb Banks, the interior defensive lineman out of Florida at 22. And then CJ Allen, the Georgia linebacker at number 21.
All right, Jace, I'm going to start right where my eyes take me when I look at the visual, and that's right to number 23. And I don't necessarily, I think, if in relation to public perception, disagree with you on what I think your opinion of this player is. But we've done the receivers. We've talked through it. I wasn't expecting Makai Lemon at 23. Why don't you talk me through why you are lower on him than most people are? And I will caveat, I'm not one of these people that's got him as a top 5 to 8 player in the class, but I know 23 is a little lower than consensus. Walk me through that.
Yeah, I listen, if you guys listened to the podcast last year, you know kind of my style of a receiver, and I really like Makai Lemon, but I was not in love with anything he did at the combine. He didn't test. I haven't seen has he done any pro day stuff?
Not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest pro day attention payer, so couldn't tell you.
And so that's the hard part, right? Is everyone second guesses pro day anyway. So if he were to go out and run his 40, they're going to second guess it. He didn't do anything there. I don't think he's one of the guys that I would say.
He ran a 4.4. Oh, sorry. I just interrupted you to give no information. I'll 4.46. I mean, they wrote a range down. Welcome to pro days.
So that's he didn't actually run. They were just guesstimating, I guess.
No, he ran, but it was between a 4.48 and a 4.53 according to a bunch of different hand times.
Okay.
4.47 unofficial.
Listen, he looks like he plays faster than that, which I'll give to him, right? Like, I think that he's really good in and out of his breaks. He creates separation, 84%. He had an 84% open target rate, which was incredible. His yards after the catch was 6.4. For his size, he has really good hands, catches the ball pretty well. I just, a slot-only receiver that lacks a little bit of size and length, play strength, and probably is not going to be the biggest vertical threat. If I see where a team, I think the ceiling for him, in my opinion, is probably at 16, which I believe is that the Jets.
You think that's the highest he can go or the lowest he can?
I think that's the highest I would take him.
Okay, that's the Jets' second pick, 16.
That's where I think that I would get comfortable taking him. And then obviously there's some teams that would fall in underneath him that I think would love to take him. I think he's a first round talent. I think he's a mid to late first round guy. I'm not putting him in the top half of there. I think he lacks a little bit of stuff that I would like for a receiver to have. And so, listen, great season, played in a great offense, put up numbers, was the Blendikoff Award winner. He's super snappy and twitchy in and out of his routes. I just think for what I like and where I see, receivers and stuff, I would not be comfortable taking him higher than the Jets' second pick, which is at pick 16. That's just where I kind of fall on him. Will he go earlier than that? I think there's a high possibility that he could, but I'm not feeling comfortable taking him there. I think that somewhere in that 20 range, as close to 20 as possible, is where I would feel comfortable taking him.
And before you torch or praise me on one of my rankings, I will say I think Jackson Smith and Jigba and Puka Nacua and Amon-Ra St. Brown are having their little A.J. Brown moments, if you will, and Josh Allen moments in the scouting world right now where, you look at a receiver of this archetype and it's so easy to slap that label the same way we did Treylon Burks with A.J. Brown. Whatever is in style, people gravitate towards. And it is very important that you evaluate the player for who he is and not who someone similar became, because the Seattle Seahawks and the way they treat Jackson Smith and Jigba and the way they're able to deliver him volume may not be the same way the New York Jets are able to deliver Makai Lemon volume. Or the highest I could see Makai Lemon going, if the Washington Commanders take him at 7th overall, which is I'm talking absolute ceilings. The first time I've ever said maybe in a mock draft, or like the Miami Dolphins at 11 after the Waddle trade. Are they going to be able to give him that type of volume? You're talking about guys that get 20 targets a game, 15, 20 targets a game. JSN, Puka, Amon-Ra. Is that what Malik Willis is going to be able to give Makai Lemon? Is that what we're talking about? So it's a tough battle in terms of being somebody that watches all these players and, you post about it and you have somebody that's learning who this guy is. And they're like, oh, he went to Southern Cal just like Amon-Ra, and he's a slot only guy who's tough and runs really nicely over the middle. He's going to be great. I'm going to take him 6th overall in fantasy. Not how that works. Or else you would have been burned in your dynasty leagues taking Treylon Burks 1st overall or Will Levis. You get the point. But I'm buying a little bit of what you're selling on Makai at 23. You'll see where I have him in a little bit.
I wanted to ask you about Caden McDonald. I only had one interior defensive lineman make my list. Obviously, that's Caleb Banks at 22.
Yeah,
And I'm really close to putting Caden McDonald in my top 30. So he's right on
sure.
the border, as you guys can see. So I want you to kind of talk about him because he will not show up on my list.
I think Cade McDonald is one of those players that in a couple years, really only the fans of the team he plays for is going to really know who he is. And just what I mean by that is he's not going to be popping up on all these highlight reels, and he's not going to be topping the stat charts in terms of this guy led defensive tackles and sacks. But this guy will play the nose. He'll play over the guard if you ask him to. But I really like him as an A gap defender. You can have him play the B gap in certain alignments, but this is a 6'3" guy who's going to hover around that 330, 335 mark. And he's such a good run defender. I think in terms of guys at the top of this interior defensive lineman class, he's the best run defender of the bunch. I feel so solid about him in that position. Only 14 pressures and 2 sacks this year. You're not getting much pass rush value out of this guy. I compare him a little bit to Tyleik Williams, quite frankly, out of Ohio State last year, who snuck into the first round at 29th to the Detroit Lions. I think Caden McDonald could do the same, and I actually like McDonald to take more than Tyleik Williams. So we'll see how that balances out. Williams went a little earlier than I expected him to, as somebody who had him as a my guy. But these run defenders are very important in a game that is gravitating back towards being balanced and running the football after our little cameo in the you have to throw the ball 45 times a game world that didn't work out. Thank you, Cliff Kingsbury. Caden McDonald is a great counter to that. Think Jordan Davis a little bit on Philadelphia without maybe some of those flashier plays getting after the quarterback. I really like McDonald, and there's a reason he had a 91.2 run defense grade this past year for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, listen, that's why he's so close to top 30 for me is because of how good he is in the run. And we saw guys like Tyleik Williams last year who had a team, and all it takes is one that wanted one in there as a tone setter that wants to stop the run, can get knocked back, reset the line of scrimmage. And I think that's what he is. But I think to be a top 30 player for me in the defensive line group, especially, I think you have to have a little bit more pass rushing ability, and you have to have a little bit more than 3 sacks in 3 seasons at Ohio State. Now, with that being said, is this someone that a late first round pick team could take? I've seen the Patriots get mocked him a lot. I know I'm a Patriots fan. I don't love the fit with Milton Williams and Christian Barmore, but I could easily see like Denver taking him and wanting to improve in, or like
because they have Zach Allen rushing the passer from the middle. I think that's what makes the most sense with McDonald. I like the Panthers fit at 19. That's the highest I would take him because you can line him up next to Derek Brown and they'll complement each other so nicely. But you can't just take him, oh, he's the top interior D lineman on my board, if your best interior defensive lineman, the guy you're pairing him with, is also a run defender. You're not getting much pass rush production out of him. If you were, he would be a top 8 to 10 player in this draft class.
Yeah. And as I say, the Broncos at 30, obviously they don't have their pick, but like could Kansas City take him to replace like Chris Jones at 29, right? Like, so there's teams that fit, what they would want to do. I think that he does have a tendency to play with a little bit high pad level at times, and it gets him in some sticky situations, but he's probably one of the better run defenders at the interior defensive line group, and he's a mountain of a man to move. And so he has some stoutness to him that I think teams will want. I would be more comfortable taking him early second round right there. But there is a spot for him for sure. Just with the lack of pass rush is probably why I don't have him in my top 30 yet. He could be in there, but why right now? Also, when you evaluated him, what games did you watch?
For me, it was I always like to watch the Michigan, and then I went to college football playoff and Big Ten championship.
So you should go watch him play Vega Ioane.
Penn State.
It's a kind of a dominant. I'm looking at the
PFF grade right now
by
Vega because the PFF grade sticks out as low.
It was one of his worst games. Now, is that because he was going against Vega? Is it Ioane? I suck. Ioane. I'm going to call him Vega. Is it because he was going against him, or is it because maybe he's just, that it could have been a thing of competition? But then again, that worries me because we have him. I'm sure we'll talk about him at some point I believe I have him up in my next group, which you might also. I haven't seen your ranking, so I'm not sure yet, but I'm sure we'll talk about him at some point.
Yeah.
When I watched that, I didn't even say it was 50. It clear, and that was another reason I kind of had him hovering right around the or in the 30s and not in my top 30 as of right now.
I'm looking at something just caught my eye on McDonald's PFF, but that's one of the few games, the Penn State game where he played 14 snaps as an A gap defender and 26 as a B gap defender. And he's got a couple games that vary, but some of those best games from him down the stretch are where he takes more of those A gap snaps. And listen, you got to be able to play both. I'm not drafting a guy that's just pigeonholed in the A gap in the first round, unless you're absolutely utterly dominant, which is not quite the caliber McDonald is at. But I think that's just an interesting note, and I will want to go watch that game.
Yeah, for sure. What's another pick for me? Give me something.
So the guy I'll bring up, and it's not just because I'm a Gamecock, somebody that I was really interested in and came away a little bit disappointed in, but also like, I don't know, you have these players where you're disappointed, but you're like, I see the vision. It's
Yep.
Blake Miller. Moves
I
super
had a, I had a,
well, great
I had a
frame,
feeling.
but I'm like, the pad level's high. He gets knocked back a
Yes.
lot. Feel like he loses when edge rushers bring power. The weight shows on tape, which is tough, but also like good initial pop when he brings it. The feet fly. Sometimes the anchor's really good and the hands are fast, but could not get him to really be in the top 30 convo for me. You have him at 26. I want to hear why.
Yeah, he definitely has an upright playing style. I think that what's funny is I think Will Campbell last year
Yeah.
got criticized for the same thing. And it might just be something that he's been comfortable with.
Coached
It does
or
get him in a
yeah.
sticky situation. He definitely leans too much. He can get caught on his heels. It's something that he struggles with. And again, maybe that's what he's been coached to do. So maybe someone can coach it out of him. He does struggle sometimes to redirect, and that's because he has a little bit of a narrow base. But man, I think that this guy is a prototypical tackle at 6'7". He had 34 and a quarter inch arms. He ran a 504.40, had a 32-inch vertical, 9'5" broad. You see the athleticism on tape, in my opinion. He can anchor at times. Again, like I said, narrow base, higher playing style gets him in trouble, but I have seen the ability there. I do think he has decent hands to overtake guys, and once he gets hands on him with his long reach, it's kind of a dead play right there. I love his aggression. I think that he plays really aggressive. He can stop guys when he gets his hands on you. Like I said, strong hands. So when he gets those mitts on the defender, I think that that's there. And the one thing is too that I love about offensive linemen is I should know the exact stat. I have it written down somewhere. It's not on the page I'm looking at. I believe he's like the only Clemson offensive lineman to start since true freshman years since like the 70s.
That sounds right.
So
yeah.
He's played a ton of football, and I think he's pretty ready to come into the NFL with a few tweaks, obviously. But him playing a lot of college football in the ACC, playing for Clemson, I think is saying a lot. I believe he's like he's a multi-time team captain too. I wrote this down because I mocked him to the Patriots in one of my mock drafts I did a couple weeks ago.
Had to be ready for the haters.
Had to. So definitely had some have some stuff on him. I have to go back in. It's on my iPad, not on my computer and stuff. But I like the vision. I think that some team is going to fall in love with him. If it were to be the Patriots at 31, like if he could sit for a year and maybe work behind Morgan Moses, I'd love it. Like there would be better positions, but I would like it. I could see that's why I have him in the top 30 is I could see him being a top 30 pick because there's teams that would value his size, his length, and his athleticism at the back half of the first round. Houston could also maybe look at something like that. Like they could look at taking an offensive lineman in that range.
Listen, that makes sense to me. Not somebody that I'm going to be as high on, but kind of like I talked about, like you see the yes on tape. You see why teams are going to say yes. And we talked about it when we briefly touched on Tyleek Williams. Is all it takes is one team to say yes more than the rest of the league, and it happens. Jace, hit me. Hit me with one right
I'm
here.
I'm trying to pick one that isn't going to spoil it because there's a couple guys in yours right here that's going to pop up at some point throughout mine. So I don't want to hit on those because we'll talk about them, I'm sure, with them being higher on my list. We'll go to the one guy that I kind of want to just talk about that's going to show up on both of our lists right in this length or in this section right here is going to be Denzel Boston, because I think there's a lot of people that are kind of, I don't want to say split on him, but there's people that are like, he's a big, tall X receiver, great ball skills, good athlete. Then there's also some that are like, he can't separate. So what do you see in him? Because I think we're going to see him separate or very similarly. I just know some people have a lot of concerns about Denzel Boston.
So this was one that I like, that we're kind of both in the same area, because like you talked about, I feel like I still see some people with a little bit of that summer ranking, right? Where he's very high. And then some people are like totally out on Boston. And I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. To start it with like a little bit of a comp, I get some Cortland Sutton vibes through his tape. Not exactly the same aggressive and like killer type of player that I think Sutton becomes, especially on third downs. But more so Sutton out of SMU is a little bit of what I see in Denzel Boston. So I think he's got a smooth release, deep release package to help him beat the press. I think he's got good speed across the field, fluid enough to create some natural separation. I think he gets delayed by reroutes way too often for a big player. And that's partially letting defenders just get inside of his frame way too often, which I'll reiterate should not happen for a guy that's 6'4". Strong hands, big body, big time red zone threat, impressive catch radius, contested catch weapon with good body control. And I actually haven't updated this, but would love it if you have it in front of you. But was curious to see the 10s and the 40s time for Boston, just because I think the explosiveness would love to be better than what I think it might be. What I think it might be. And then I think he can get nasty as a blocker. I want to see it more though. There's reps where I'm like, yes, and then it doesn't show up, but I know it's in there. My major gripe with Boston is he just lets DBs get way too physical for him for a 6'4" player. He has DBs can get physical with him in ways similar to the way they get with Casey Concepcion, and that's not okay for a guy that's got 6 inches on KC. But I do think Boston is a good athlete, lined up all over the field for Washington. Throw it up, he can come down with it. I think this is a odd type of player just because it's an X receiver who I don't think should be a wide receiver one. So that's tough to juggle. How do you fit that in? And you know, maybe I'm higher on him because I'm a Ravens fan and Zay Flowers is my wide receiver one. So like it works. But like I think of Browns at 24. Like who's their one? Judy? Cool. Put him with Denzel Boston. That's a great fit. Sorry, Cedric Tillman. You had your shot. So, you know, you're not drafting this guy to be your outside number one threat, but I think there's a lot to like about this player. 23 for me, 29 for you.
Yeah, and so one concern that I have, not as much as some people, and I think why he did not run his 40 at the combine or pro day. So he keeps opting out. And I think that that's a concern. If he's not doing it at the combine and then his agent's still telling him not to do it at pro day, he's either too slow to run it or they know he's going to get drafted at some point and he really doesn't need to. I don't think it's the latter. I don't think that that's what it is. I don't think that
Omar Cooper is doing this.
If he keep like the narrative around him is that he's doing it because he's slow and there's guys behind him like Omar Cooper, and some people have Casey Concepcion neck and neck with him that are passing them because they're better route runners, more or have better speed, better separators, you know, in the intermediate, short to intermediate range. So listen, it's an interesting conversation. I think he's a baller. He's been great for 2 years. I think he gives you something on the outside. I don't know how high he would go. Like, I totally agree with the comment you were saying about where he gets drafted is huge. I don't think he fits in Buffalo. I don't think he fits next to Keon Coleman.
Hell no.
Like, those two guys aren't a fit. Like, so where is he going to get drafted? Who's his number one with him? Yeah, not with Ted McMillan, right? So like you
No.
got to find someone that has or a team that's there. Now, if the Patriots can't go out and get a guy like AJ Brown, Denzel Boston might fit with Romeo Dobbs and Kayshon Boutte potentially.
If the Eagles want to give the Patriots AJ Brown,
then they could take him.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah, if there is a guy that can separate in the system, Denzel Boston makes sense. But if there's not one of those guys, I agree with you. I don't think he gives you enough as the wide receiver one to draft him in the first round and say, oh, this is our guy. This is going to be the number one guy that we're going to continuously throw to, down or, drive in and drive out. He's going to get 10 plus targets a game.
I like it. I'm going to go to your board real quick. We'll touch on Caleb Banks. Don't have him in mind, but that's just because I can't get over the injury bugs with him. But I do like the player enough to be like, that's totally fine that you have him at 22. He's hovering in that 31 to 35 for me. One guy that I wanted to give you the chance to gush about because he's a player I really like. And outside of 30, there's just kind of a mess of players as you're kind of putting them in the big board and you're like, I only need a top 30. The rest are going to live right here. But Zion Young's a guy I really like and a guy that keeps getting better every single time I watch him or end up watching somebody else and he's on the field. An ascending pass rusher, gets better every year rushing the passer.
Yeah.
Hard-nosed run defender, wants it on every play. I'm going to have him in my top 30 by the end of this. I don't know who on this list is coming out, but somebody is. I just haven't found the spot yet. And haven't found, the real reason to get Zion Young in that top 30. But if you will, Jace, please do that for me. Because
I'll go super quick on both these guys. I'll start with Caleb Banks. I love Caleb Banks' size, 6'6", 327. He had 35-inch arms. He has massive wingspan, showed good athleticism with a 5.05 40-yard dash. So I love what he brings in there as a run defender and has a little bit of athleticism, size, and stuff to push the pocket. I think that's the one thing about Caden McDonald that I wasn't like.
I wanted to say that. Pocket.
Why
pushing.
did he push the pocket as much?
Because Tyleek was fantastic at that.
Yes,
Tyleek was an amazing pocket pusher.
Because as a D lineman, interior D lineman, you don't have to win with speed every time. No. You can just bull rush your guy into the quarterback's lap and get a pressure or a sack or force something. And I didn't feel like Caden McDonald did that enough. And so I love that aspect of Caleb Banks' game. I think that he's really good at that. His change of direction skills, all that stuff for an interior defensive lineman, especially at his size, is good. Quickness to get over or across offensive linemen on slants, if he's doing a game or whatever. Really like what he brings, just a little bit more than Caden McDonald. I think he's just a little bit more dynamic than Caden McDonald. And then I'm kind of the same as you on Zion Young. He barely made my top 30, but that's because every time I go back and watch him or every time I go back and watch 2024 film or 2023 film, I'm like, this guy's significantly better. And so maybe he's kind of reached his peak, but I'm very comfortable with his peak where it's at right now. Like, I think that he gives you a lot in the run game, big, stout, physical, tone setter on the outside that can make guys cut back inside. He'll dominate tight ends. He'll be good enough against offensive tackles. But then also he's getting better as a pass rusher. Like, he wins continuously with good moves. He doesn't have the most burst and the biggest dip so that he can turn the corner consistently. That's going to get you 12 to 15 sacks a year. But I see this guy being a consistent 8 to 9 sack a year guy that could potentially get 10 plus in a good year. But he gives you everything you want as a run defender, and he gives you enough as a pass defender to make me comfortable putting him in my top 30.
I love it. I mean, 22-year-old player, and he's not somebody whose weight you worry about or arm length you worry about like some of the other guys in this class. You want to go one more off of my board, and then we'll jump to 20 to 11?
Yeah, the only thing I want you to hit on is Colton Hood. He is at 31 for me. He is literally a guy that I moved out like a day or two ago, not in a bad way, but it was to get other guys on that I like more. So hit on Colton Hood because he's 31 for me. He's 30 for you.
This whole corner 3 through 5 is a tough juggle for me. But I'll start with Hood. Opted for him. He's the youngest of the bunch. I think he's still 20, a redshirt sophomore who's bounced to 3 schools. So if there's some flags that come up around draft time, there's some teams that don't like that. That's a real thing. Yes. He's been at 3 schools in 3 years, I think, if not 2, but I know he's from Colorado. think there was a school before that. But this guy's got impressive length at outside corner, covering in deep zone. He's comfortable with it. He likes to read the quarterback. And I think he runs well with wide receivers down the field, opens his hips, flips, turns, burns. I think he can do all of that. And he's able to play tight coverage, can get real sticky. Not as sticky as my corner 4 or 5. Haven't decided on where Avion Terrell slots in for me, but he's the stickiest of that 3 cornerback bunch. He plays a lot of off coverage, which is, not going to fit with every single team. And I think he has to break down quicker when he's going in to make a tackle if he wants to continue playing off coverage in the volume that he is currently. I think he could take better angles pursuing ball carriers. And I want him to be more physical down the field. He's a long guy with a good frame. I think he could use it more. And I would like him to be more involved as a tackler, please, is what I wrote down, asking very politely. And just to touch on that group of 3, I think Terrell's the stickiest. Cisse is the best guy downhill making the tackles. Hood, I think, has the best frame, the best age, the best overall tools. Terrell's tackling worries me. I think Cisse can get twisted up a little bit, but I think he's maybe got the most moldable frame, highest potential, if you will, next to Hood. So it's a fun 3-man group to juggle. Hood takes the cake for me there, though, with some of the pros, but also the cons that I outlined, which is why he leads that group, but why he's down at 30.
Yeah, so he started at Auburn, was at Colorado last year, or in 2024, and then Tennessee this year. So
yeah,
bounced around. Hasn't been at one place more than once. Could be a concern. Listen, the physicality of this guy, I think he plays the game the right way, especially as an outside corner. I think he can get a little grabby at times with his hands, and I think his technique to play press man needs to get cleaned up a little bit. But he has the
experience.
Size. He has
needs
the length.
To play press more.
And that might just be it. Like if you go look at all of his snap counts and stuff in throughout his whole career, he played 700 this year, 300 at Colorado in 2024, and only 44 at Auburn. So he's still new to some of this stuff. Like it's still new to him. He's coming out the earliest he can. And I think that with him being 21, a team can use the physical tools he has and mold him. Listen, that's why he's at 31 for me. I had a hard time bumping him out. I only bumped him out, like I said, to get a couple other guys in here that I just knew I really wanted in my top 30. He could easily slide back in there, especially if we go back and go to the corner episode and we rank them. And maybe he's above like a Jermod McCoy who's dealing with injury issues. You know, so could easily be up there. But the upside, you can see it there. There's just a couple things I'd like for him to clean up. And he is a young player, so I'm not worried about that being like a hindering thing. It's just where I would feel comfortable with taking him right now.
Let's move to 20 to 11. I'll read through these quickly. 20, I've got Monroe Freeling to tackle out of Georgia. 19, CJ Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. 18, AJ Halsey, safety, LSU. 17, Akeem Messidor, edge from Miami. 16, Jermod McCoy, the corner from Tennessee. 15, Spencer Fano, the offensive lineman from Utah. 14, Casey Concepcion, the receiver from A&M. 13, Oliva Vega Ioane, the guard from Penn State. 12, Makai Lemon, the wide receiver from Southern Cal. And 11, Francis Mauigoa, the tackle from Miami.
20, I have Avion Terrell, the corner out of Clemson. 19, Vega Ioane out of Penn State, the interior line. 18, Keldrick Falk, the edge out of Auburn. 17, Dylan Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon. 16, Monroe Freeling, the offensive tackle out of Georgia. 15, Fernando Mendoza, quarterback out of Indiana. 14, Peter Woods, interior defensive line out of Clemson. 13, Mansour Delane, corner out of LSU. 12, Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. And 11, Francis Mauigoa, offensive tackle out of Miami.
Jay, start us off. Where are we starting?
I want to ask you about Casey Concepcion. I know we've talked about 3 receivers already, and I am becoming more and more of a Casey Concepcion fan. I believe I had him, if I'm going back to look at my list, he was obviously at 27 for me, so you got him a whole 13 spots higher.
So I'll start with the bad, and it's notable. A lot of drops in his college career, and I don't think he's the best wide receiver over the middle. But super elusive off the line. I think he could win on the inside and the outside. If you need him to play on the outside, I think he can do that for you. Super deep release package. He's lightning quick off the line to beat the press. Acceleration and route tempoing to naturally separate. He does that very well. He's elusive down the field, twitched up as hell is what I wrote down. Great speed to stretch the field. change of direction, stops on a dime, second gear to stack defensive backs when he gets in a good position. I think he attacks the ball with his hands when it's in the air. Super shifty after the catch. Good vision with the ball in his hands. Takes a ton of snaps from a variety of alignments. Can take those Jeremy Bernard type snaps where you're just running the play to get your playmaker the ball, but he can also create on his own down the field and win at all three levels. And really impressive body control. Good catch radius to pluck the ball out of the air. He's a really good athlete. The return game as well. He is a danger when you punt the ball his way. So I like Casey Concepcion. Smaller guy, can lose some reps when the corner is going to get real physical with him. 5'11", 190 type of player. I don't know if that's higher or lower since the combine. I need to go in and update those. But Casey's a guy I'm a real fan of. I think he is going to be a solve for an offense that's looking to get more dynamic, stretch the field more, and maybe, has a young quarterback who needs to offload some plays and get the ball out quickly to a playmaker. Casey's that guy. Slots in at 14 for me.
Yeah, this is like the perfect pick for the Bills at 26, in my opinion.
Yes.
Or, like Pittsburgh adding Michael Pittman there. And obviously they still have DK Metcalf for who knows how long, but
especially
Pittsburgh.
If Will Howard is the QB.
Yes, like I agree with you. He is such a friendly option for a quarterback. Get the ball in his hands, let him go to work. I will end up moving this guy higher. I know I will. I had him at wide receiver 4. He's now at wide receiver, I had him at wide receiver 5. He comes in at wide receiver 4 on my top 25 big board. So he's already moved up a spot over Denzel Boston. When we did the quarterback episode, Denzel Boston was above him, and we already talked about him, but he has already jumped him. And I don't know if he'll get into the top 3 for receivers, but he'll probably climb up closer to the 20 range in my top 20 or my top big board. So definitely see what you're saying about the explosion and how friendly he will be for an offensive coordinator and a quarterback.
Talk to me about Keldrick Falk, a guy that is a really good run defender, young player, hell of a lot of tools, really good athlete. The pass rush stuff, not there yet.
Yeah. Listen, I feel like there's a part of me that is a little bit contradicting because as an interior defensive lineman, I talked about it was Caden McDonald, like having him up here. I don't think that Caden McDonald can be in my top 30 because he didn't give you much pass rushing ability. The same could be said about Keldrick Falk. But am I crazy to think that – do you think Keldrick Falk's an edge or an interior defensive lineman?
I think he's an edge rusher, but I do think he can – so I think in the world of edge rushers, it's been lost upon us that there is a difference between David Bailey and Keldrick Falk.
1,000%.
Positions that they play. Keldrick Falk is a defensive end. And will play head up on a tackle or maybe on his inside shoulder, depending on your alignment. Like this guy's not going wide 9 on anybody, but I would think he is an edge rusher.
So I see this guy a little bit as like a 3-4 edge, potentially a guy that fits more inside the tackle, just like you said. I would not put him out as a true wide 9 outside as a pass rusher.
He's not Will McDonald.
He's not. And so a part of me is grading him as just what I think he could be in the NFL if they were to maybe tweak his position a little bit and move him more interior. Even as a 3 technique, I'd like this guy. I think he'd be a mismatch for 3 techniques, or for guards. Like if you put him as a 3 tech in pass rushing situations, I think that there's an opportunity for him to be more productive than what he was. He's 6'6", 275 pounds at the combine. He had 34 3/8 inch arms. He has the size. He has the length to play in there. He would obviously have to gain 10 to 15 more pounds, ideally, if they were going to move him in at a full-time interior defensive lineman. So I don't think that's going to happen. But I like this guy potentially as a guy that could move inside. And I think that's why I moved him in. It's because he's only 20 years old. He's one of the younger prospects in this class. And so with more development and potentially maybe a more creative defensive coordinator or someone that knows how to use him, I think he has top 20 potential in this class for sure. Physical against run defender or pullers. That's one thing that I do love when he's out of edge is if guys pull to him, he is like taking their soul. Like, he is nasty. He's violent with his hands in the run game too. Like, if a tackle goes out to him or a tight end, he sheds them off with great violence. The point of attack, he's really good. Great getting extension and pressing guys off of him. So there's a couple things in there that see the lack of pass rushing ability, but see that I would maybe move him inside more than what he did in college and think that he would be a little bit more effective at the NFL level.
I dig it, man. He's a good player. I want to see the I wish we saw more of the potential actually happen.
That's totally fair. And like you said, like, he doesn't have Ben to get around the corners. So you're not putting him out there. And he's not super explosive off the line to beat offensive tackles up the field. And so, there's things that he leaves on film that you'd like to have those answers before going in. This is one of my more projections of a guy. And like I said, if you get him in a system that's maybe a 3-4 and he's inside more, or there's a defensive coordinator that just wants to move him in there and say you got to gain 10 to 15 pounds, I really like that idea more than I like him as just a true edge on the outside.
All right, hit me with your next one.
Akeem Messidor. Love the player, hate the age. Got to talk to me about it.
Same, Jace. Same.
Okay. All right, good.
I hate the age, but in this class, I think you're just gonna get a guy that's ready to roll for 4 to 5 years, make your team better. Hopefully, it's a contender that drafts him. The age and the not crazy athleticism. I just hope the figurative athletic rug does not get pulled out from under him.
Yep.
But listen, 2 years into his career, he's going to be 27, not 37. So I'm not saying he's going to lose all his athleticism there. But the reason it's important to note is because the reason he's been in college for so long is because he's been hurt a couple times.
Yeah.
But the strong leg drive, good power, great pad level. I think he's very good technique overall. Good speed off the ball, and he does a great job of getting his hands in throwing lanes, which I really like. Jason Taylor got him and Ruben Bain ready to be veterans out of the gate, and that was super impressive to me. Listen, Messidor's just too good of a football player for me to have had him much lower than this. I know the age, but this is one of the players, the absolute opposite of what you just said about Keldrick Falk. This is a right now ranking. And, that's not exactly how I choose to govern the entire big board. But with this player, he was good enough on tape for me to get behind ranking him in a 3 to 4 year window. And I'm okay with being a little bit short-term sighted with this guy.
Yeah, this guy, he's at 32 for me. So okay. I talked about Colton Hood being at 31.
Not far off. Yeah.
Not far off, right? He's close. I think this guy's a perfect top end of the second round pick. And this might sound really stupid, but
to a bad team though.
If you take, I get what you're saying, but if you take this guy as pick 33 or whatever, like, let's just say the Jets, and that's a really bad option, right? I'm not talking about the player, or I'm not talking about the fit. I'm just saying,
okay,
how many years is on a rookie deal for a second round pick?
4.
How many's on it for a first round pick?
4 or 5 if you want it, though.
5 gives you a 5th year option, right? And so,
which you don't really need for Akeem Messidor, maybe.
Yes, and listen, it's a really dumb thing to think, but you're also gonna see movement in the draft. You could easily have a top team trade from 27 to 34 to get Akeem Messidor.
I just posted a 3-round mock draft. Shameless plug, go check it out. But I had the Cardinals trading in from 34 with the Bills at 26. The Bills back at 34. If he's there, that makes so much sense to play that Joey Bosa role next to the Bradley Chubb and Gregory Rousseau's. So I'm buying what you're selling. I just don't know how many good teams you'll find in that early second round slot. I think the Texans pick there because of the Laramie Tunsil trade.
They're at 38. Yep.
God forbid the Texans take another edge rusher. The world's going to end.
I mean, the Chiefs are at 40, and that's going to be a better team than what they're picking at this year.
Don't do that.
I'm just saying, like, there's going to be something, but
right.
To get to the player, the film is good enough. The film it's not just good enough. It's really good. People forget about Messidor because Ruben Bain was so good on the outside last year. and because he's a top 5 prospect. But Akeem Messidor is a really good player. There's a lot of teams that you just said and hit it perfectly that are drafting from 26, maybe 24 down, 25 down. Let's just say, the Bears that could use this guy for a playoff or Super Bowl run next year. And they could use him for the next 3 or 4 years. And so he has the film to go first round. But there's concerns there, health, age, all that stuff. The film is really good, though. That's why I have him at 32.
All right, I'm trying to decide which of these players I'm going to call out for my last call out from you. So I'll let you pick. I'm going to throw 2 names at you.
Okay.
Dylan Thieneman, you're a little bit higher on him than I am, but he's a very good player. And then Peter Woods is higher than I thought you might have him after the combine with the size and the length concerns that came after that.
Yeah, and that's the size and length concerns are different, but the more size and length definitely plays a role, but I don't see that on film. Ruben Bain measured really bad too. And I don't think anyone's super worried about Ruben Bain, obviously. So measurements were definitely a concern for him.
And listen, I'm concerned about whoever's doing the measuring because there's been discrepancies this year through the entire process. But that's another story.
But I want to hit on Thieneman because I really like Thieneman. This might be my guy going into the NFL draft and stuff. But 4.3, 540, which was in the 95th percentile amongst safeties. He had a 1.52 10-yard burst. He had a 41-inch vertical, which was in the 93rd percentile. Probably tested or at least boosted his stock the most of anyone, or at least he's in the conversation to have done it at the combine. I think that this guy was really good at Purdue. Obviously transferred to Oregon this year, was really good there. I love this safety class, and I know you're high on AJ Halsey. You have him up there as, I believe, if I'm seeing this right, that's safety 2 for you, AJ Halsey.
Dose.
Yep. And I've got to go back and remember, but you would have Thieneman at 4 then, right? Because you have McNeil Warren. So
all 4 are in my top 30.
And so we're flipped. We're flipped on them because I would have Thieneman as 2, McNeil Warren as 3, and then AJ Halsey would be in my next tier. Not next tier, but he would be there as safety 4.
Just say 4.
But I think all these safeties are neck and neck. Like, this might be other than Caleb Downs, this might be the closest 2 through 4. It is crazy how good these guys are. I really like Thieneman. I think what he gives you in the run game or as a ball hawking guy is really special. His tackling needs to be better. If I believe, I'm trying to pull up his exact, doesn't he miss like a shiz ton of tackles? I got to pull this up because when I looked it up,
he's one of those players that kind of distracts you when he misses a tackle because you're still focused on another good play he made. He had 9 missed tackles this year, 8.3 missed tackle percentage. So you might got the wrong guy.
There was now I got to go back and look because
12.8 missed tackle percentage and 13.1 missed tackle percentage at Purdue. That's not crazy high though.
Yeah. So
it might be.
You're right. Is it
this
year? 10
from Harry Ramsey?
Now I got to go back and look. See, it's because I don't have notes on these guys.
I'm going to rip through the safety class and find the one with the obscene tackling percentage.
You'll find him because there's one out there. There's a guy out there.
I'll keep looking.
You'll find one, and
it's going to be. I think it's going to be Genesis Smith.
You know what? That's exactly who it's going to be. Because you want to know why? Because we played Arizona this year, and I remember it.
And he had a 19.8 missed tackle percentage.
That's exactly who it is.
And 20. Yeah, Genesis Smith, I love, but there's so many missed tackles on.
So sorry, Dylan Thieneman, to take the spotlight off of you. But what I have written down is that I thought he was good in the box. I thought he can be good from depth. I think he can play both roles of safety. And I think that's very important in the NFL nowadays is how you disguise your defenses. Can you put him in the post and rotate him to the post? Or can you put him too high and rotate him to the post? Can you put him down in the box, rotate him to too high? Can you put him in too high, rotate him down? You can do multiple different things with Dylan Thieneman. I think that he gives you the versatility, what you want. I think he could potentially play a bigger nickel. I don't know if I would do it consistently, but you could put him on there. I believe he's very smart. He sees the field very well. He knows what's coming. He's always around the football, run or pass. Great athleticism, obviously, all the stats that I just said. So I like Thieneman. I think this is a guy that you're probably watching and you're saying he's been good for multiple years, not one to overthink. And maybe it's just because he's a white safety. People are overthinking him. And also, it could be that simple. But I really like Dylan Thieneman. I think Minnesota, it has a really
good history with white safeties.
They do. And that might be stereotypical, but I think they have a really interesting talk about if Dylan Thieneman is their pick once they get on the clock in the first round at, what is it, pick 18?
Pick 18.
Similar to where I have him, even though big boards don't work like that. But still, right. I think they have a serious conversation as if they want to go safety, who is it? Is it Thieneman, McNeil, Warren, or is it Halsey, whoever's still on the board?
Yeah. And I like it. And I think McNeil, Warren, and Thieneman have more of a bid to go that high just because they offer you different roles. Whereas I think Halsey's more of your rover, not saying he can't come down because that's one of the best things that he does, but he does more as like a reactionary safety who's going to trigger downhill once the play's in motion, fly down and kill you. Thieneman can start there and do so many things, play at the linebacker level, rush the passer if you want him to. Same with McNeil, Warren. And I think the way that safety works is it's trying to, or at least the way that you can justify it being taken so early is a guy that helps you play positionless football. And Halsey doesn't do that as much as Thieneman and McNeil, Warren, which is why I think those two guys will go higher. But that collective group, downs included, so impressive.
Yeah, the safety group might be one of the funnest this year, in my opinion. It's deep, and there's a lot of fun players in that group.
Last guy from you to me before we jump to top 10s.
I think we should talk about both Monroe Freeling. He fits in both of these categories here. Yeah. He's your 20. He's my 16. This is a guy who I believe is starting to come on. Not quite as much as what Armand Membu did last year, but a lot of people didn't know about Monroe Freeling
until he
declared
3
months ago. Yes.
So he's a junior
thing. So
junior, early declare that not many people thought was going to happen, which is kind of why the hype on him was a little bit lower until the declaration happened. 6'7", 315 pounds, unbelievable athlete right here. I think he's got impactful and accurate hands. He's got good power off the ball, able to get his pads down and drive through defenders when he's gap blocking, which is something that's very noteworthy for a 6'7" player. Easy mover when he's in space, goes into the kind of athlete he is, and good athleticism and technique, hand striking, doesn't allow his pad level to get too high in pass pro, able to mirror rushers well. I like his base, and I think he sits into his hips nicely at the line of scrimmage, just in terms of that pre-snap stance. I think he can get off balance a little bit. He's a taller player, and that's kind of something that plagues him, gap blocking, zone blocking, and pass pro. I think he's just going to have to do a better job of staying in phase, staying in balance. And I think he can go from 60 to 0 real quick when he does so. And that's, again, a reference to coming off balance, but that's with his anchor. And I wrote down an off balance Freeling is a Freeling on the ground. And so I think maybe he can add, I don't know if it's core strength or weight to help him center, and just solidify that anchor, solidify that frame. But I really think the balance was my big concern here, which is a funny thing for a guy that's such a good athlete, which I think, makes you think maybe it could be fixed. He's, not the most experienced player at offensive tackle, early draft declaree, but love his athleticism, his ability to move. And I think what he does with his hands, and the accuracy and his ability to weaponize his hands is what puts him ahead of some of those guys in this tackle room that I would maybe like to have sit a little bit behind a veteran.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he's only started 18 games. He's played in 37 games. He's only started 18 of those. I still think there's a little bit of rawness to this guy. Like, he's still a little bit green, but that is what's exciting about him. I've seen people mock him to Cleveland at 6.
At 6.
I don't know. I don't know if I feel comfortable yet, but I could definitely see him creeping into the early teens for someone that wants an offensive lineman. I could see.
Can I tell you what I like?
Teens. Yeah.
Real quick. This is what I like. This is kind of what I'm conjuring up in my head. If I had to tell you what I think the most awkward pick is in the top 10, it's 10. Because I'm guessing Downs is off the board for Cincinnati. If he's not, it's a no-brainer. But if Downs is off the board for Cincinnati, I think it's a little bit of an awkward pick. I think Detroit calls from 17. If Freeling's there, they swap. Cincinnati jumps back to 17, gets the edge rusher or interior guy or linebacker or safety that they want at better value. Detroit gets a tackle. And I think that would be a very, very fun landing spot.
I could definitely agree. I don't see any complaints there, but his athleticism, his length, and I think how raw he is something that a lot of people are gonna oogle over, whatever it is. Like, they're gonna love it. That was a weird word I just used, but
ooh and ah, they're gonna oogle.
Yeah, they're gonna love it. So I'm glad we got to talk about him. I'm glad we both had him in our top 20 because I do think he's a very intriguing prospect that's shooting up draft boards.
Let's roll to the top 10s. Number 10, I have Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver from ASU. 9 is Fernando Mendoza, the QB from Indiana. 8 is Mansour Delane, the corner from LSU. 7 is Arvell Reese, the defensive weapon from Ohio State. 6 is Carnell Tate, the receiver from Ohio State. 5 is David Bailey, the edge from Texas Tech. 4 is Ruben Bain, the edge from Miami. 3 is Sonny Styles, the linebacker from Ohio State. 2 is Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame. And number 1 is Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State.
10 is Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon for me. 9, Spencer Fano, Utah's offensive tackle. TJ Parker, edge out of Clemson at 8. Carnell Tate at 7, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. Ruben Bain at 6, the edge out of Miami. Caleb Downs, the safety out of Ohio State at 5. 4 is David Bailey, the edge out of Texas Tech. 3, Sonny Styles, the linebacker out of Ohio State. 2 is Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame. And 1 is Arvell Reese, the linebacker at Ohio State.
I'm going to start us off, Jace. And
Go ahead.
Got to start at number 8 on your list. Hard-nosed edge rusher who didn't produce the way I wanted him to this year. But we know he's got talent because we saw what happened in 2024. But you have TJ Parker higher than anybody I've ever seen at this point in time. Higher than his parents have him in this draft class. Jace, tell me why TJ Parker is a your guy for you. And if he's not a my guy for you, he is now.
Yeah, well, I think I would put him as a my guy. I really like him. I don't think he's going to end up going this high.
Me neither.
Actually, I can say confidently he's not going this high.
Right.
He's not going this high come draft day because of how he played this year. And I agree with you that it was a very disappointing year. I think he could have played himself into a top 10 pick, but he did not.
He could have played himself into the top 5. He could have done what Ruben Bain did this year, I think.
Easily. And I think there was hype around him to do that. Like, that was kind of the expectation.
To be honest, yes. Yeah.
6'4", 263 pounds. He had a 4.68 40-yard dash. I see a lot of Jermaine Johnson out of this guy when I watch him play. I don't know how realistic that comp is, but when I watch him, something about Jermaine Johnson always jumps off at me. It's so weird. Good build for a defensive end. Arm length is there. He's physical at the point of the attack, sets the edge. He uses power very well as a pass rusher.
He does.
His long arm move is so great. Like, he just gets into the chest of guys and drives them back into the quarterback's lap. I think that his hands are one of the best in the class. He never gets beat to the point of attack. Like, he's always ready with his hands, whether it's rushing or a pass, whether it's a run or a pass. He has great hand placement. His change of directions, lateral skills for his size. You saw a lot of that both in his in 2024 and 2025. He's also pretty decent when he has to drop in coverage. Like, I think that some teams are going to like that because they're going to be able to use him as a dropping end in blitzes and stuff. So he doesn't have the elite speed off the edge. He doesn't have the ability to dip. The twitch and quickness is not there like a David Bailey is there. And sometimes when he gets, when guys get, like, he doesn't have a good counter move. Sorry, that's what I'm trying to say. When he doesn't win with power and he can't win with like a cross chop or whatever because he doesn't have that elite speed, that's where his game breaks down. He doesn't have that elite counter rush move for the guy that he needs to be to get, to the pass rusher and stuff. So a little bit higher on him, a lot higher on him than a lot of people and stuff, but I buy into the potential. I buy into the 2024 film, and I buy into Clemson. You're going to smile at this. Sucked this year.
Already am.
And a lot of people underperformed.
Listen, he would have had 31 pressures this year if he didn't have a chance to go up against the preschool that was South Carolina's offensive line by the end of the season, where he threw up 10 pressures and 4 sacks. But listen, Parker's a guy that's kind of gone like this for me, right? Midseason was down on him. The numbers aren't there. Why aren't they there? They're supposed to be skyrocketing. You're getting outdone by Ruben Bain. We knew Bailey was great. I didn't think that Bain was going to be that good. I wanted it to be TJ Parker. It wasn't. Now you kind of watch it as the season ends and you're like, this guy's still a good football player. I think he belongs in the first round. Like that you have him at 8, hang your hat on that. Who are you going to pick on me for?
I'm going to pick on, let's see, I got to see. Let's talk about Arvell Reese, because I will say he is not comfortably my number 1 player. I could easily, and I probably will move him at some point. Like I said, when we get to more in depth of the whole defensive group, but I want to talk about him because he's at 7 for you. He's at 1 for me. So let's talk about Arvell Reese, because another one that maybe has some mixed emotions. Great tape, but testing, or not even testing, but maybe some off the field work. One video is starting to push him all of a sudden to a 7th round undrafted pick.
I don't think he's draftable, Jace. This is one of the worst players I've ever seen. He can't bend. He did the same drill as Ruben. No, I'm kidding. I hate social media. Go follow the Draft Geek. Arvell Reese is a super impressive player. He gives you so much as a defensive player. I will start off with this. There's a lot of what position do you play him at? I wouldn't change his role at all.
Neither would
I that's why we should host a podcast.
We should.
Arvell Reese is a fantastic linebacker when triggering downhill. He had a blessing next to him playing with Sonny Styles, a guy that's more comfortable in coverage. I think his best fit is to play next to a linebacker that's more comfortable in coverage. I think he's a good enough player to where if you draft him and don't have that, you go get that, because that's how you really unlock what Arvell Reese is. It's like if the Ravens didn't want to get a third safety to supplement the snaps where Kyle Hamilton's going to go do his thing. They would be foolish. Thank you, Jalen Hawkins. We got a text about that, by the way. I need the lowdown on Hawkins. Arvell Reese is a special pass rusher when you ask him to do it. I don't think he has the bag yet to do that full time. Maybe that's something he transitions to. Maybe his agent gets in his ear and says, hey, you're playing too much linebacker. By the end of your 4th or 5th year, we need you at edge so you can get that contract. That's unfortunately super possible. And I wonder if that's part of why Travis Hunter played wide receiver as a rookie, because that might have been the strategy. Who knows? But Arvell Reese is a havoc player when he's going downhill. 3rd down and 8, get him up on the line. 1st and 10, 2nd and 4. I want him at linebacker. Excellent run defender, super powerful player, benefits everybody around him because he is such an unselfish player. Him and his teammate Sonny Styles both will take on any block. They will run right through somebody to open up the ball carrier if there's a pulling guard with the running back behind him. They're not trying to necessarily swim move. They say, hey, Caleb, come down, follow me. I'm going to run through this guard's face. You go make this tackle. Really like what he does out of the linebacker spot, and you can play him all over the place. And I think that is the way it should be at the NFL level. He had an NFL DC. I don't think we need to call this like a gimmick role or anything like that. I think you keep him put. The reason he's at 7 for me, I mean, if you're talking like true linebackers, guys that are going to play linebackers 3 downs, from that, off ball, middle linebacker position, I like what Sonny Styles does there better. I think runs laps around Reese as a cover player. That's because he's a former safety. That's not supposed to surprise anybody. And that more so speaks to how much I love Sonny Styles. But Arvell Reese, also a little lower just because I'm a little bit scared a team's going to draft him and fully buy into the edge thing. It's a little bit of a fear ranking. He's I think a better player than what 7 may insinuate compared to public belief, but I really do hope he's kept in the same role he had at Ohio State. Also, like it's very popular to diss some of the casual fans that dislike Reese for this, but I kind of side with them where I wish there was more Arvell Reese in the big games. When I was watching the CFP in the Big Ten Conference Championship with my dad, he's like, who's the guy that's going to be the number 1 overall pick? I'm like, number 8 right there. I'm like, I wanted more in those games.
I think you hit it on the head. Matt Patricia gave NFL teams the blueprint how to use Arvell Reese. And
Yes,
if a team takes Arvell Reese to play him like Matt Patricia did, I don't have any question about him. I think that you look at teams drafting in the top 5. Robert Saleh is a defensive genius, and he had Fred Warner. Could you use him like Fred Warner? I think you really could. I believe you could use him in that type of role. I believe he's so good triggering downhill. He has the ability to cover. Yes, I'm not putting him off the edge 20 times a game because, like you said, he just doesn't have that bag, and he just hasn't been asked to do that. But when he's blitzing, when he can play from linebacker depth, he's so good. He's so versatile, and he creates mismatches against offensive linemen when he can do those things. So there's got to be the right defensive coordinator that can take him. Matt Patricia is one of the best to do it in the NFL. And he was great at Ohio State, and he always knows how to scheme up, offenses and get guys in good situations. He was great doing it for the Patriots, and he's always been a defensive mind. And so I think that is the blueprint of how to use Arvell Reese, how to draft, why you should draft him, and why you shouldn't move him to the edge because of just what you saw him and his ability to do at Ohio State. And honestly, what he does best is playing downhill, playing with his hair on fire, and being used as an off-ball linebacker. So still have him at number 1. Could move, a couple positions. I don't think I'll move him out of my top 5. I really do love him as a player, and I do love his versatility.
Hell yeah. Spencer Fano, somebody that I snuck in an OL next to. You have offensive tackle because I didn't change any positions for you because you texted me your rankings. And
way too late. I'm sorry.
No, I was doing mine while you sent me yours. But Fano's a guy whose length really concerned me a little bit. I want you to talk to me about him, why you think maybe he sticks at tackle, but also why maybe somebody like myself, who's a Ravens fan, is now looking at him in a different light and is like, is this a Tyler Linderbaum replacement? Because to me, this would be a really fun center. Guard in the right system, maybe not Raven football because he's lighter, but what do we do with Spencer Fano, your number 9 player?
So I think he can play all 5 positions of the offensive line. He's better as an interior, projects better with the length, but his athleticism on the inside. Do you remember who you loved last year as he was a tackle, but we all said he should probably be an interior, if not a center?
I mean, Will Campbell.
Stop. Don't disrespect him. Don't disrespect him. He didn't go in the first round. I'll give you a hint.
Okay, dude, this is how the memory works.
Big Ten player.
Big Ten player. You got to give me a school just to speed this up.
They wear gold.
Who wears gold? Am I losing my mind, Jace?
Not Vanderbilt, Purdue.
Oh my God. Marcus and Bo. Yes.
We loved him, but
center.
Yeah, I think that
comparison in terms of perception.
He can play tackle, but he will be his best in the interior.
Yeah.
If you need him to play tackle as a swing guy, or if that's where you want to start him, I believe he can do it. He has the athleticism. Will he struggle against the elites? Yes. Will Campbell struggle against elite? I also believe that blocking Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, Max Crosby one-on-one is one of the hardest things to do in sports.
Yeah.
That is so hard to do. So all rookies are going to struggle with that. So if that's what you're drafting him for, don't have high expectations. I found that out as a Patriots fan. But other than that, he's going to be really solid. But I believe his position versatility, his athleticism, he's tough-nosed. He's a hard worker. He played in that Utah system. Like, you're not soft as an offensive lineman in Utah. They play hard-nosed downhill football. They run the rock a ton. That's what the offense is built on. And he had a really good couple years there. And, he's been very, very good in the Big 12. And he had a great showing at the combine, athleticism-wise, not measurement-wise, but athleticism-wise. So I think that the ability to play all 5 spots and give you that versatility to move him around, to play him on either side, to play him interior or exterior, or move him to center. I think that is something that teams will want, and they'll be able to say, hey, we can do a lot with this guy. We'll find a home for him, and then we'll make it work because he's so athletic.
It reminds me a little bit of the inverse perception of Troy Fautanu. Before he measured better than we all thought,
Yeah.
we were getting ready to say, hey, this guy can play all 5. Still think he can, but when he measured with, I think it was like 34 and an eighth, we were like, oh, or you just play tackle.
Yeah.
All right,
no,
Jace,
I totally agree.
Hit me with one more from my side, and then I'll I don't know if I'm going to go back to yours. I think I got two.
There's one that you got to ask me about that's significantly different that I'm hoping
it's
we
the
get to.
number 10 player. We'll get
there. Okay. I was hoping we get there.
Next
I want you to talk about Mansour Delane. Because he is close for me. Obviously moved him up,
13.
Not moved him up, but he was, where was he? 13?
Yep.
13 for me. And so want to talk on him because he is cornerback 1 on the list.
Cornerback 1 for me, cornerback 1 for you. Really like this guy's instincts and feel for zone. I think he's got that dog mentality that you kind of have to have at corner. Really love the bounce back that he had this year after he struggled in his final year at Virginia Tech. If you turn back the clock to 23, though, he was a standout player. So he's gone back and forth in terms of expectations. He comes out of college on a high. I love the way that he mirrors in man. I think he's a reliable tackler, capable of bringing violence. I think he gets that from his counterpart and co-transfer class member, AJ Halsey. That's totally BS. Quick downhill, closing speed, sticky in man, like I said, and a steady, reliable tackler, which is something I was craving a little bit in this class, watching these corners. Predominantly an off coverage guy, but I think he can play the press. And I think he could just get beat a little bit with a lack of quickness in some of that short area steps by the line of scrimmage. If you got a guy that's going to take a lot of efficient steps in a slant, I think Delane likes to be a little bit off to read and react as opposed to mirror super quickly with his feet. He's a better mirror down the field, and I think his click and close could be better, but I think this is a sticky player who can play in man and zone, is going to be shut down downfield. And listen, you know what? If my weakness for him is that he might get beat underneath a couple times, but he's going to be a good rally guy and get to the football, and he's a willing tackler, I can live with that. So Mansour Delane is a guy that I think brings it, and just somebody that I watch and I say, yeah, he's reliable on the back end. And I do think that goes a long way. There's types of players. We're going to continue to go back to Caden McDonald anytime we can. But listen, reliable run defender. I watch him and I'm like, reliable run defender for sure. And I feel really good about that. That gets you to like 24 on my board. But I'm watching Mansour Delane and I'm like, I trust this guy on the back end. That goes a long way. And he ends up at 8 for me. Because I trust him in coverage, like I do with Avion Terrell, who's not on this list. And I trust him after the ball is caught to bring the ball carrier down. That's why he's at 8. That's why Terrell's hanging around closer to 35, because I think Delane brings a little more of that full package.
Did the Chiefs trade Trent McDuffie because they knew they could get Mansour Delane at 9?
Yeah.
I think so too. Because I could see him be a little bit smaller, undersized, but he plays the game the right way, and he has legitimately cornerback 1 like ability. Like 30-inch arms and 8 and 7-inch hands is not great length for a corner. 6 foot, he's got good height, but he doesn't have the elite length. But he plays the game. He's sticky, like you mentioned. He plays the game the right way, physicality wise. I think Kansas City takes this guy at 9. And it's probably a wrap. They need a cornerback 1, and I think he can step in and be that in year 1. So I totally agree. I'm guessing you're going to ask me about Kenyon Sadiq at 10.
That's the guy. Take it away, Jace.
So I got to ask you before I get into this.
Yeah.
If Kenyon Sadiq, Tyler Warren, and Colston Loveland were all in the same draft class, how would you rank it?
Wow.
Sorry, putting you on the spot here.
Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Kenyon Sadiq.
Really?
Yeah.
So I wasn't as high on Loveland as you were. So I would
I remember that. So it makes sense.
I would
he's
put
in between.
Warren because of how well-rounded his game was.
And
Sadiq and then Colston Love.
Yeah.
I was coming out of college and because of how athletic he is. We all know the numbers. Fastest combine 40 for a tight end, 4.39. He ran a 1.54 10-yard split. He had a 43-inch vertical. He had an 11-foot-1 broad jump. He's 6'3", 240. Okay, this guy doesn't have, crazy stats. Okay, he only had 8 touchdowns this year on 51 catches and 560 receiving yards, but he led Oregon in receptions. That's the most for a tight end in the program history, and he had the most touchdowns among FBS tight ends at 8. So even though it wasn't like whoa, that was an incredible year like Tyler Warren put up, he had a good year this year in college football for a tight end. He's hard to guard. He creates nightmares for tight ends or for linebackers. He's bigger than safeties. He has pretty good ball skills. He can separate. He's got the big playability. He's good enough as a blocker. I love this guy. I think that he's probably going to get taken. If I had to do a mock draft today, I would mock him to the Buccaneers at 15. But I think that there's a lot of other teams that would be really happy to take Kenyon Sadiq because of his talent. It's just, will they do it because he's a tight end and because of the positional value? I don't know. Colston Loveland went a lot higher than a lot of people thought he would last year. And he went before Warren, which not a lot of people thought would happen. So I think that maybe people are starting to realize a great tight end can be a game changer in the offense. And I think Kenyon Sadiq is one that NFL teams will look at and say he is one of those guys that can give us that advantage.
Listen, we talked through it on the tight ends episode. This is a really good player who took major strides as a blocker. You know what I'm going to say? I want to see him get better at finding space, making himself more available and in impromptu situations for scrambling quarterbacks. But listen, this guy was behind Terrence Ferguson last year, and it was his first go of being a tight end 1, and Oregon went through a lot of injuries at the wide receiver position. So there's a reason that he was asked to play a lot of wide receiver roles last year, and why a lot of his routes looked like wide receivers and were less sort of that, like, close your eyes and picture Travis Kelce sitting and moving over the middle. That was less of Sadiq's game, but I trust that he's got that in him. I just haven't seen it as much yet, which is why I'm a little bit lower on him. But that's, all that to say, this is a very good football player with good size at a great age. And a player that's in a tight end class that I'm very excited about.
It is a good tight end class.
Yeah, it is. It's a hell of a tight end class. It's a top 5 that I'm very excited about. And it excites me more than Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Mason Taylor, Elijah Arroyo, and Harold Fannin Jr. did last year. This crop of Sadiq, Stowers, Endries, Roush, Claire, however you want to chalk that up, that's fun. So
and let me just, this is a dumb question because I don't think it would ever happen, but some teams would, who's more likely to say, screw us taking a defensive player, let's go get more help for our quarterback? The Cincinnati Bengals or the Dallas Cowboys? Who would say, screw defense, let's get Kenyon Sadiq to pair with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, or pair him with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? Who's dumb to do that? Now, personally, I would never do that because they need so much on defense, but they've always prioritized offense. So who would do that?
I'll give you the cop out and say the Cowboys because they have 2 first-round picks.
Okay, that's fair, right? They could take Sadiq at 12, and then they could go at 20 and still go get
because the Bengals defense, the Bengals general manager wouldn't be drafting on day 2 if he did that.
Hey, Who knows, man? Maybe Joe Burrow wants that. They seem to do whatever Burrow wants. So no, I would agree with you. But like, there might be a team that would shock people because they're like,
The
let's go to
Ravens, by the way, I think are the potential Sadiq monster spot.
yeah, yeah. I mean, before the Rams traded their second first round pick for McDuffie, I could have seen them doing that, even though they already took Terrence Ferguson. But
Right.
let's pair them back up
Because
again. Let's
they had
put
2 picks. Why not?
yeah, let's put Ferguson and them back up. You know, would the Jets take someone at 2 like David Bailey and go get a tight end there? They've been looking for one for a while, have they not? Like everyone thought they
Mason
should have
Taylor erasure.
I have Mason Taylor in a dynasty league, so I would not be happy about that. You know, would the Panthers say, let's go get Kenyon Sadiq with Bryce Young and Ted McMillan?
Yes, and they should really look into doing so because they haven't. You know, I'll happily commit. Sorry, Jatavian Sanders erasure.
Yeah.
So
you know, there are some spots that you might not be thinking would be tight ends, but because of how good Colson Loveland is, or how good he was year one and stuff, there might be some teams that are like, you know, we could take this guy or we could take Denzel Boston. I'm probably taking Sadiq over Boston. Like,
I mean, depends on the team. But
the team
I
need,
think it's
so
super possible.
So yeah, no, it's an interesting conversation to have. I'm excited to see where he goes because I do think he's a mismatch waiting to happen, and in the right offensive system, someone will make him a really fun player in the NFL.
I love it. A lot of fun. You know, we've touched so much through this process on the Dallinses, the Loves, the Styles, the Baines, the Baileys. So it's good to run through the rest of this group. And I'm just looking at it. I think you can lock in the 7 favorite players of this podcast and write them in Sharpie. In no order, Jace and I's guys at the top of this field are Tate and Reese and Bain and Downs and Styles and Love. I think I read all, and Bailey. Those 7, there you go. Put it in ink. Those are the 7 best players from this class. Thanks for playing. Jace, you have anything else before we wrap it up other than why those 7 are going to be on the all-rookie team?
No, I'm excited, man. This was fun. We'll get to more mock drafts. We'll get to a couple more position rankings and stuff. But what are we a month away? What is it? April
23rd at 8 p.m. or something like that?
8 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Central my time. So we're less than a month away from draft day.
Wow. The Draft Geeks got some posts to make, some reports to post. What a time of year, man. It's exciting. I'm glad the Ravens aren't dormant anymore. They were for a couple days.
Aren't you so glad that you guys got your first round pick back so you can actually enjoy the draft?
I felt like what's his last name? Sonny
Weaver. Yep.
Yeah,
I want my picks back.
I want my picks back. All of them. And you can keep your blown out knee defensive end, and we're gonna get a guy in one tier of edge rusher lower. And that's exactly how I picture it went.
Yeah. That's so funny. That I was thinking
I want my picks back.
I was thinking about you when that whole thing went down, obviously as a Ravens fan, but like draft day's funner when your team's picking. Obviously, we're way more invested in all of the picks because we love the draft, but like the couple of years where the Patriots, like you wait all the way around to pick 30 and then they trade out, I'm like, man, this sucks, man. What the heck are we doing? So it's probably a little bit more fun for you that you have a top 15 pick, even though you wish you would have Max Crosby too. But now you can be invested in one of these prospects at least.
I'll give you a story before we wrap is that there was one fateful day in 2018 where the Ravens were drafting towards the middle back of the draft. And I knew they needed a tight end to help out Joe Flacco. And I really wanted this tight end from Oklahoma. And I mean, shocker, I really didn't want this tight end from South Carolina. And they traded back. And I was like, damn it. Okay, I got to wait more. And then they traded back again. And I'm like, are you serious? One of the worst feelings is a double trade back in the first round.
Yep.
Because, it's 2018 and it's getting closer to my bedtime. And my parents are like, you got to go upstairs. You got to go to bed. And I'm like, the Ravens just traded back again. And I'm like, I'm standing at the foot of the stairs and they called the name of the tight end from South Carolina. And I storm up
Hayden
stairs.
Hurst.
Hayden Hurst, pissed off. I storm upstairs. I go to bed and I'm upset and I'm cursing Ozzie Newsome's name. And I think he's lost his mind. It's his last draft. And I'm like, we got to turn the GM card over. And then I wake up the next morning to go see how the rest of the draft went. I load up ESPN and Lamar Jackson's in the cover with a Ravens hat on. And I just went,
I remember you telling me this because they traded back into 32.
that's what they were doing the whole time. Trade back into 32. Here we are.
Did they not?
Later.
That wasn't the year. Mark Andrews was drafted.
And Mark Andrews was drafted in the third round by the Ravens.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes.
Is that was the year you got Hayden Hurst, because I remember it was like, they took 2 tight ends. Well, the Patriots did that. Geez, my wife just walked in and scared the living crap out of me opening the door. So I just saw a face peeking in, but
it's Hayden Hurst.
That's so funny that because I've had that before where in, what would it have been, 23, 22, where I wanted Christian Gonzalez all along. And they get to 14 and they trade back. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Now they have Pittsburgh, the Jets, and Washington. And I thought Washington was going to take him. And then Washington took Emmanuel Forbes. And then I ended up getting Christian Gonzalez. And so that was the time
back?
They traded back from 14 to 17 and still got Gonzalez. And Emmanuel Forbes went at pick 16 to Washington. So that was a stressful time.
That's terrifying. Draft trade downs are terrible, especially if you're who was it? The Giants trading down. Didn't want to take Devontae Smith too early. Ended up with Kadarius Toney.
And then the Eagles took him. They're division rivals. Yeah. There's some funny draft day things that happen. So, but no, it's fun. If you guys have not already, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. If you want to hop over from the audio, hop over to YouTube so you can see the graphics, all the stuff that we put up. Max does a great job with all of the graphics that we put on here and stuff. So, but no, and then if you have anything, hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you want to see, whether it's a mock draft, whether it's another position ranking, what position we should do, all that stuff. We're excited. Got some content to push out in the next month, but we wouldn't want to do it with any other event, even though the Masters is coming up, and the Masters is fun too, but the draft is better.
Can't wait. All right, for Jace Campbell, I'm Max Showstack. We hope you enjoyed the big board episode, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.